The series finale of Justified is over. It's over, but we are just getting started talking about it here live for the first time for the Justified podcast on post-show recaps. And now introducing the man who's been digging podcast coal with me for the past several weeks and months, Antonio Mazzaro. Antonio, how you feeling, buddy?
Is we podcasted together the new we dug coal together, Josh?
Yeah, we podcasted together in upstate New York, no less.
It's a very blue collar occupation.
It is. It is indeed.
Lung.
Yeah. I have the black podcasting lung.
No, Pop. No, it's not happening. No, I mean, look, podcasting, no comparison to coal mining, but I feel like we have a bond, Josh, nonetheless. I don't think I would put you down if given the opportunity. I think I would take you in.
If you make me draw, I'll put you down.
Well, fair point. If you want, you're going to pay to find out. That I understand that part of it for sure. No, very emotional, Josh, but there's no person I'd rather be emotional around in podcast land than you. So
no, absolutely. I mean, we are the two of us. We tend to ramble. We tend to take our time getting to the point. And I think especially tonight, I want to put off talking about the episode as long as possible because acknowledging that it's over means it's actually over.
All right, what'd you think of the Masters this year?
No. We should actually do it.
Jordan Spieth? No.
Is
that his name? I don't know. Sports.
All right, Antonio. Let's address it. Let's take it down. Justified is done. No more Justified. The song of Raylan Givens has been sung. The legend of Boyd Crowder is not over, but it's over as far as being televised. What did you think?
I'm raising a glass. I'm raising a glass here of Kentucky's finest.
I'm raising mine as well.
I see that you are. Yes,
I am.
That is a Dharma Initiative pint glass.
Yeah.
That is a Dharma Initiative pint glass full of water.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I love that finale. There are finales that stand the test of time. There are finales that stand and represent the TV shows that they occurred in the ending of, and there are finales that really don't stick the landing. There are ones that don't fit or that are an outlier or maybe represent a show the creators thought they were making the whole time, but that the audience never felt they were making. This is a Justified finale. Like, this is exactly what it needed to be in terms of the emotional beats, the beats for the characters, what the stories meant, who the people meant to each other, and a little violence, a little humor, some great little sneaky cameos, a bit of a Wynn Duffy. We had it all.
Only a touch of the win, but we
had a touch of the win.
A little win goes a long way in the series finale, I think.
It was a good win. It was a great
win. Big win.
Win for the win. And this is just
little win, big victory.
This is a great finale for the season and a great finale for the series. And I think that that's always a very difficult landing to stick. There are very few television finales that do both so phenomenally well as Justified did tonight. So I'm so happy to have seen the episode we just saw, but so sad that it's done.
All right, so just to set this up, if you are watching us live, that is awesome. We have not been doing the Justified podcasts live all season long, so this is the very first time, very appropriate occasion. If you're listening into the archives, business as usual. But if you're watching live, we want to hear from you. We want to get your take on this Justified finale. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Which characters were you happy with their endings? Which ones were you not so happy with? What questions do you still have? Send all of that our way. Send that on you can send it on Twitter. Send it to Antonio and I. Antonio's at AC Mazzaro with 2 Z's, 1 R. I'm at Round Howard. Use the hashtag PS Recaps. We'll catch your questions that way. You can also leave them in the chat room. We've got the chat room going on postshowrecaps.com right now. We have a comments page on YouTube right now. So plenty of ways to get your questions to us. We're keeping an eye out. And on top of that, even though we're just going to say this up front, even though the Justified series finale has ended, and even though we are just getting started talking about that episode, this is not the final Justified podcast we are going to do here on Post Show Recaps. Antonio and I are going to come back with another show, not a live show. We're going to do an audio podcast that's going to come out. I think we're talking about next Tuesday, Antonio, is what we're aiming for, where we're just going to take one last look at Harlan County, one last look at Raylan Givens and Boyd and Ava and everybody, and what this show meant and how this show wrapped. And just talk about its place in our hearts and in history. So that's the setup for tonight. Anything else that you want to set up, Antonio?
Well, then in a few years, we're going to do Justified Lives, right? Where we do like the best Justified deaths, favorite characters, favorite lines of dialogue, favorite episodes.
Right, and I will be writing Justified too.
Yeah, oh, exactly. The Son of Justified, which turns out might actually be a show that could happen. So,
oh man, Justified. I don't know, like future Justified, starring like Zachariah Crowder
and Willa Givens, I guess her name is.
Yeah, that's a terrifying prospect. That's terrifying.
Pull on me, I'll put you down.
Yeah, with Raylan as like the new Art Mullen.
Yeah, growing a beard in the playoffs, something like that.
Oh my God, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we could do that, or we could do a Muppet Babies version where we could see the younger versions of these.
Oh, I'm into that. I like that too. Yeah.
So yeah, they dug coal together, Josh.
They dug coal together. All right, well, let's do this the way that we always do this, Antonio. Let's take it down scene by scene. Again, questions and comments, send them our way. Anything as we're talking through this thing. And let's start where last week ended. We waste no time. We begin with Raylan in handcuffs. He is being escorted to a police cruiser, and I don't know about you, but it was only then that it had occurred to me as a possibility that this could be a crooked cop, and that the way to get Raylan into the mix really fast would be for this crooked cop to send him to the Bennett barn. That was kind of where my head was at initially, but that's obviously not where we went. Were you thinking that at all, or is that just me?
I wasn't thinking that, but now that you mention it, I think that was very possible. What I actually read from that scene was Raylan's getting a taste of his own medicine. Like, this is the way Raylan has treated people, maybe sometimes a little more acerbic, but he's been closed off and not open to, and we got a little bit of that first scene, like, how many times do you think I've heard that? Now, how many times do you think I've heard it? So you realize that this is a little bit of a shadow character for Raylan, and he quickly finds himself in a position that he's put so many people in the past, and maybe he's just getting a little bit of a taste of his own medicine. Raylan, not exactly the least dickiest person in the world.
Is he more or less Dickie than Dickie Bennett?
I knew exactly what was coming. So I got to say,
we're in sync, man. This is what we do.
Simpatico. I was told to rein it in. I'm going to rein it in.
Don't rein it in.
I'm not going to
rein it out. Rain it out. Rain all over the place. Rain dance. This is our night, Antonio. This is our night.
We're going to start it over. We're going to rain it out.
Yeah.
No, I actually did think that this was just meant to show Raylan kind of getting a taste of his own medicine and having to deal with some law enforcement officer telling him to shut up and that he wasn't going to hear it. So that was my read on it. But I agree. Your read is totally valid. We've seen crooked cop after crooked cop. So there you go.
Yeah, I just thought that was a possibility. And, at the time I was just thinking, like, how are they going to do this? How is this show going to finish everything that it needs to finish? And I just thought, like, that would be one way to fast forward. But they figure their way through this problem pretty quickly. So when we see Raylan, he's in a tough situation. When we see Boyd for the first time in this episode, he is at a low. He is looking around the cabin for that money. He cannot find it. He finds dynamite. That's going to come in handy eventually. He finds cigarettes. That's going to come in handy as far as relieving some stress probably. And then he's going to find a shovel that's covered in dirt. And he thinks that he is going to be able to dig out the money from somewhere. The money is buried nearby.
Yeah, and I got to think that it probably is, right? Like, I think that's pretty good thinking on Boyd's part. It sure seems like that would be, because he was kind of flashing through that cabin, just knocking stuff over, really just kind of like a Tasmanian devil bull in a china shop kind of thing. And nothing, but then the shovel, it really does. We know Zachariah dug a hole. He dug a hole together. So I don't know exactly where he and Ava dug a hole together. So I don't know where that money was, but I got to thinking that it was in the ground is pretty good guess.
I think that's a pretty good guess. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's the outlying question of the episode in a lot of ways is, where was the money and who has it? Like, who was Ava's accomplice? I mean, we'll get into more detail on that later on, but I love that question. I think that's really fun to still chew on. It's like it's our own Drew Thompson mystery, It
really is, and it was shot and shown in a very kind of similar way.
It's our own Drew Thompson mystery that we are never going to resolve, and I love it. I think that's great.
I hope the creators of the show keep their lips pretty tight about what their intention was and just let it be.
Yeah, I think so too. So that's where Boyd is at. And yeah, I love that these first three scenes are all about our three main characters, and they're very, very different, but no less dangerous situations. Ava is in the Bennett barn. She's brought to the Bennett barn. She's got a backpack full of cash. It's not enough cash. Avery Markham, before he really digs into her, wants to give her due props. He says, Ava, remember that first day I laid eyes on you and told you for a woman to survive in this life, she had to be tougher than the men? Any woman who killed her husband and puts a bullet in her new fiance, my compliments on your grit. But after that, it's down to business. He just needs that money. He needs that money fast. And she says, well, I was with my uncle Zachariah, and he's up in the mountains, and he's got it. And yeah, maybe we could do something about that together.
Yeah, and that she didn't want to give Zachariah up, but God love Ava. She's really holding out to the bitter end, worried about Uncle Zachariah. So she's being a little selfless in that moment, but she does eventually have to give him up, obviously. And unfortunately, there's not much of Zachariah left to give up, is there?
No, that shovel would be good for just like shoveling Zachariah paste.
Yeah, she's giving up the ghost at that point.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of Zachariah left. There's a little Zachariah in the future, but not a lot in the present.
Boom.
Yeah. Boom,
and I don't mean exploding Zachariah.
Boom went the dynamite. Yeah, so we go from there. We go into the mountains. The feds, the marshals, everybody is crawling all over these mountains. Everybody's looking for the goddamn money. Everybody's looking for Boyd and Ava Crowder. We get word of Dewey Crow's gator teeth, and Raylan is going to hear about this over the radio in the back of the cop car.
Yeah, it's an inch longer and sharper than shit.
That's correct. That sounds about right when it comes to Dewey Crow as well.
Yeah, I think so. If you go back and watch the pilot, which I did before this episode, Dewey Crow has the most fantastic haircut, and I highly recommend, if you don't remember what Dewey Crow's prime haircut was, go back and check it out. It is phenomenal.
I watched the pilot, too. I watched it about 2 hours ago, I guess, or maybe 3 at this point. But I watched it earlier tonight to kind of get myself amped up for the finale. That was a terrific choice. It was a great choice. There was a lot of great callbacks to the pilot in this final episode.
Yeah, we'll definitely hit them along the way. But did you think this was? I mean, we speculated on this last week how the gator tooth necklace was going to come into play. Is that enough? Raylan puts the pieces together pretty quickly here about that it's the gator tooth necklace and he knows what he means. Are you following his line of thinking there?
That he saw Ava had it. Ava presented the gator teeth to him a few episodes back. So Raylan knows that if these gator teeth have been abandoned, then that is Ava being the one who dropped them. So he knows that Ava must have gotten picked up somewhere. So yeah, I think that's legit.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think that's legit. But the cop doesn't want to hear it, even though he asks over the radio, and yeah, it's confirmed it's the gator teeth and it's an alligator necklace, but it's not good enough to surrender Raylan and let Raylan off the chain and let him go and do his Raylan Givens thing. But luckily for Raylan, they're gonna pull over into a station, and Art is gonna be waiting for him. He'd like to be the one to take him in. This officer doesn't want Art to be the one to take him in. So instead, he says, nope, you're going to have to talk to my boss. And Art has one of the great lines of the night by saying, if you don't change your attitude right quick, I'm going to tear you a new asshole that you can fit a watermelon in.
It's not the kind of beehole that you want. I got to tell you, that's like opening an umbrella up there. It's like not part of what you want to have happen to your nethers, to your beehole. So that is... Art looks like the kind of guy that might make a decent good on that threat. So that's a pretty terrifying possibility there.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah.
you don't want that to happen. But yeah, so that's like enough of a threat that at least we're going to go into the station. We're going to figure this out. We're going to walk in and we're going to see if we can't surrender Raylan to Art's custody. But that's going to take a little while. First, we're going to have to go back to the cabin. We're going to see Boyd is going to stumble upon McGroobser.
Yeah, 30 seconds, McGroobser, or should I say 30 months ago, you probably passed away. And Boyd, that's a kind of terrifying discovery. Although if you're digging a hole that is about person-sized and you don't expect to possibly find a person in there, I'm not sure what you're doing, but you're not. I mean, did he just think that there was no chance there'd be a body in there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking, but he definitely should have been thinking, probably a corpse down here, maybe some money as well.
He struck at Groobs.
Maybe he was looking for One-Eyed Willie. I don't know.
Yeah, well, speaking of One-Eyed Willie, we'll find him later.
One-Eyed Willie's rich stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll find a little One-Eyed Willie later.
How about this? I don't know what you're saying, by the way. I keep hearing you say that in like such a suggestive way, and it makes me a little uncomfortable, Antonio.
We're live here on YouTube, Josh. Anything could happen.
Anything could happen, including a little cameo from One-Eyed Willie. But we have a phone ringing inside of Groobs' cabin. For all the things that are, going on in Shea Groobs, I didn't expect there to be a working telephone. That seemed like a shock to me.
Yeah, my mom was very surprised by that as well. I watched the finale with my mom and my brother, and she was like, "There's a phone working?"
Yeah, totally.
At least it was one of those old school phones, right? Like it was actually ringing. Like it wasn't
a rotary
like
phone.
Yeah, he didn't have, there wasn't like a Samsung Galaxy S6 in there.
My wife's parents still use a rotary phone.
Do they really?
My wife, yeah, yes.
Do they have to get like special dispensation from the Pope or someone to use that thing?
No, they still have that. They still have a great TV from like 1991 is the one TV in their house.
Is that true?
Yeah, you have to control the volume by going up to it and spinning the dial.
Oh dear,
it's awesome. No, it's great.
I like these people.
Yeah, I do too. But I'm surprised that Groobs even has a rotary phone.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point. But somebody's got to call him to engage his. He's got to find some way to communicate with these people who are looking to be smuggled out of Harlan over the mountain. I guess
so. It's the Groobs phone.
It's the Groobs phone. You just throw up the Groobs signal.
Yeah. I don't know what that looks like. Is it just like a cadaver's face in the moonlight?
Yes, it is. It's the most terrifying thing you'd ever see rise over your town if you were a child.
It's like the mark of the Death Eaters.
Yeah. Oh, the dark mark?
The dark mark.
Yeah, I'm pressing against my forearm right now.
The Groobs mark.
What's going to happen?
Are you Slytherin?
I'm not. I
thought you were Ravenclaw.
You think Ravenclaw?
Yeah, you're so smart.
Oh, thank you. What are you?
Hufflepuff.
Good. Hufflepuff took all the rest, Josh. You shouldn't feel sad about that.
Listen, hey, Robert Pattinson was a Hufflepuff, and I know I'm no Robert Pattinson, but I aspire.
So what would Ava Crowder be?
Ava Crowder would be Gryffindor. She's brave.
She's certainly brave in this next scene, right? When she plays it really close to the vest here with Avery Markham standing over her, and she's got Boyd on the other end of the line.
Oh, she plays it real cool. We get her on the phone. She thinks that she's going to get in touch with Uncle Zachariah, and it's Boyd. And he says, oh, he can't come to the phone right now, you're Zachariah. And Ava, she plays it cool. She says, oh, thank God you're okay, Uncle Zachariah. Totally Zachariah. I was worried that Boyd had gotten to you.
Let me speak to you in that special Randolph language we invented long ago.
Yeah. We're speaking Randolph right now. No, I kind of did think that like she blew it in the first line. But Avery Markham was so angry that I think that all he sees is green. At this moment, it's like a combination of red and green, and it's not Christmas. It's blood and money, and maybe a little weed as well. And I think that he's just so laser focused on that and doesn't have a lot of other options.
It's been fairly well established too that he's not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. Sometimes.
No, really not. I do think that by the end of this thing, we can say that. I think that we can pretty fairly say that Avery Markham, the big bad wolf, was not the big bright wolf, the brainy wolf. I think he was kind of a dumb wolf.
You got a problem with the way I think about things?
A little tiny bit, but not the way you talk. The way you talk is fantastic.
I got my head tilted to the side so you'll know I'm serious.
Yeah. Well, you've got both of your eyes, so I know that you're not actually Avery.
One-eyed Willie.
One-eyed Willie. One-eyed Avery.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, I know what you were getting at.
I'm not sure if
but the way you said it still sounded gross. But yeah, so they have this, this fake conversation where she is basically saying, everything that Boyd needs to hear if she is going to drag Boyd out into the open to get Boyd to come and save her, which is pretty terrifying that is her best chance of survival. Is to call Boyd right now. But I guess she's got to do what she's got to do here. But
she is the only person alive who does know where the money is. And
that's
if Boyd wants any shot at that money, he's going to have to make some kind of bargain with her to get to it. So she's smart enough, even in the moment, to recognize that's her saving grace right now, is she has a very valuable, a $9 million piece of information. And keeping her alive and fighting for that $9 million is probably worth it, at least to Boyd.
Yeah. So he's gonna at least kind of take a stand here and say that's fine. Let's do this. But we're meeting at Compass Rock, 2 miles east of the trailhead. And so he's setting the terms for where they're gonna meet, where they're gonna intersect. But he's gonna have some trouble getting to where he wants to go.
Yeah, he says. Well, first of all, he says, tell him to send an unarmed man. What are the chances of that actually happening?
Not high.
I mean, Ava smartly edits that on the fly and does not say, he said send an unarmed man, because Markham would actually sniff that out, I feel like.
And also laugh in her face.
He also sends a very armed man. He sends like a Vishnu. This is there are many arms on this man here.
Yeah. And its arm is called Jenny.
Yes, that's one of them for sure.
Yeah, that's one of them for sure. And also the standing order for Boone, who's taking Loretta with him. The standing order is to make sure that the old man has my money, all of it, and then kill him. Which doesn't seem like that speaks well for Ava's survival odds in Avery's hands.
It definitely doesn't, because he's ready to close. He's ready to tie these loose ends up for sure. Like, he's ready to close the book on everything Harlan and get his money back and figure out exactly what his next move in Harlan is. But he's got to get that $9 million before he can do anything. So he's going to tie up these loose ends for sure.
He's going to tie him up for sure. But we got other business to attend to first. We've got Art and Raylan. Art is driving Raylan. He's going to bring him back to Lexington. He gloats a little bit. He says, "I told you I'd get you. I told you I had this."
Classic Art, just walking all over Raylan like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take very long for the team to reform here, for the Super Friends to get back together, does it?
It takes no effort.
Not at all, really.
It takes absolutely no effort.
They were on finale time for sure.
Yeah, they were. They didn't have any time for like a big scene, like a big kiss and makeup scene. They were going to do that wordlessly over a glass of bourbon later on. They had no time for that here. They just had to become the Super Friends again.
So do you get the sense that Art stepped in because he was ready to do that? Or do you think Art's plan really was to take Raylan back and Raylan immediately talked him out of it?
I think it's the first thing. Don't you think that Art knew that he was probably gonna, like, maybe part of him thought that he was gonna take Raylan back to Lexington, and I think basically the moment he lays eyes on him, he's like, "Oh, God damn it. I'm totally just gonna team up with Raylan here."
I think that's when he started feeling weak. I think he had planned to just take him back.
Yeah.
And then when he saw the situation, he saw the way the cop was being, when he had to make it federal, I think then because when he gives Raylan his gun and badge back, he just kind of swears at him. It's like, "Oh, God, really? I mean, like, come on." Like that. He's just like, "All right, we're going to do this. But for F's sake, Raylan, like, let it go. Come on, we got to do this."
Let it go. From Susan Appleby in the chat room, who self-identifies as a Gryffindor, Susan says, referring, I think, to Avery, as we discussed a minute ago, about how he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Susan says, too much weed, too many stoners. I think that's
talking about the podcast or Avery.
I don't think she's talking about the podcast, Antonio.
Yeah,
I think talking about Avery, and I think that explains why maybe some of his decisions were a little dulled.
Well, Boyd does
imbibing the product too much.
Boyd, he's getting high on his own supply.
Yeah.
Boyd does kind of remark on that later. He's like, "For Stone, you sure are very quick on the uptake," or whatever. So
yeah.
maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, that might be it. All right. How about this for absolutely crazy? I couldn't believe that this was happening as I was watching. It was Boyd versus the Marshals in the mountains. I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect to see in this episode Boyd throwing dynamite at Tim Gutterson. That's just not something that I thought was going to be happening. If I had my Justified bingo card, that would not have been on there.
He was like a video game villain, like just some kind of like problem that you have to encounter. It's like, no, you got to wait. You got to time out the patterns of his throws, and you got to run up the hill before he throws the next one and put him down.
You got to wait until his teeth start glowing, and then you can wound him. He's vulnerable.
Yeah, you see him. You just wait for those white teeth to pop up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he was like. He's like a little mini boss or something. Like, you just got to time it out.
Yeah, it was definitely a mini boss. Boss, not final boss quite yet, but it was like halfway through the level, you come up to the guy with the glow-in-the-dark teeth, and he's throwing a dynamite stick at you every 5 seconds.
Yes, I mean, this is the Edgar Wright directed version of Justified, and I love it.
It's a good version of Justified. I like it quite a bit. Was he, when the Marshals are shooting at him, when the Marshals and the Feds are shooting at him as he's running up the mountains, did he get shot again, or is it just he's still really injured from what had happened to him when Ava shot him?
I thought they might have winged him a little, but I didn't get any sense of that.
He's like limping around and stuff, you know?
Yeah, he was kind of stumbling up the hill. I honestly thought old Gutterson might be able to get a better shot off, but I guess he was pretty far away. It was, again, Gutterson using a pistol. Not exactly. I'm a little surprised we didn't get some final Gutterson kind of sniping in this final season, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, let's just call it what it is. Tim's shooting game was off this season.
It really was, and there were no apricots that were claimed. Maybe apricots weren't in season. Maybe it's this drought in California.
No apricots.
Apricot, Josh. It's an apricot.
No, well, in upstate New York, they call it apricot.
No.
I just revealed the secret of upstate New York.
It's the most boring produce-related secret ever.
No. There's a lot darker secrets, like how we.
No.
All right. Okay. I'll move on from
that. Read it in, Josh.
But it was amazing. It was amazing to see Boyd tossing dynamite. You know, I do. The only thing that I would have loved to see in that scene that we did not get is a certain phrase. Can you guess the phrase that I would have loved to see Boyd shouting at the Marshals as he's throwing dynamite?
Fire in the hole.
That would be the one.
Yeah, that would have been pretty solid. I think the fact that he didn't shout it,
maybe a little on the nose if they'd done it, but
well, I think the fact that he didn't shout it is probably evidence that he was not. He was really caged animal Boyd Crowder at that point. He was not fun-loving, rapscallion sort of vandal outlaw Boyd Crowder screaming fire in the holes. He's throwing dynamite at the U.S. Marshals. As crazy as that whole scenario sounds, he really was just trying to buy himself some time, and he was a cornered animal on the run. I appreciate that we don't exactly know how he got out of there, but it is kind of crazy that he got out of that situation, considering there was a chopper overhead. Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper, Boyd. You have to get there now. Come on.
Get out. You can't be here. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
He's dead. My daddy's dead. Don't talk about him.
No, I mean, it is funny that there's a chopper flying over his head. There's marshals all around him. Boyd, no problem. I'll get out of this.
How did he do it?
Not only am I getting out of this, I'm going to get out of this with a hostage.
Yeah, how did he do that? How did he pull that off? Are we just going to chalk that up to the legend of Boyd Crowder and leave it alone?
I think
I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that.
Yep, I think that's what we do. I think that some of it is those law enforcement officers, they're not from Harlan. They don't know the hills. It is very difficult for them to kind of figure out exactly what Boyd knows and exactly where they are and what, I mean, you need a topographical map of Harlan County.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
if you're an outsider, for sure.
Let's come back to that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm a big fan of that. Just Boyd somehow getting out of there was just unbelievable, and very unexpected. And then speaking of unexpected, as this scene was playing out, this scene where Raylan and Art go to the cop bar, I was kind of surprised that we were spending any amount of time on a scene like this in the finale. When we got here, I kind of didn't know what the purpose was going to be. Deputy Stiles, who was this guy? I don't remember this guy very well.
This was the guy who let Carl into Boyd's hospital room for Markham under the auspices of Carl to kill Boyd. He was the
stupid
dirty cop
Wigler. Yeah.
And then so Boyd shoots Carl, right? And he doesn't kill Stiles at that point. He just kind of pistol whips him, I think, and beats him down and leaves him kind of knocked out. And so this is the next thing we see of him. And that's kind of been, I think you can tell that's been a loose end that's been kind of trickling around in Raylan's head. Like, you were the cop that was beat up on sight by Boyd Crowder. You're probably dirty. You're the one who told Nelson that somebody was outside. We needed to switch. So I need to brace you. I need to figure out what you know. And then there we go. That's exactly what happens. He knows what he knows. And old Hank Aaron helps him get the loose lips there.
Who's Hank Aaron?
Sports.
No, I know who Hank Aaron is.
Yeah, do you know? I'm not. Don't Hank on my chain here, Josh. You know who that is?
He's a baseball player. He's the man with the home runs.
The home runs. Yes, he is. He is.
Yeah. That's like when you score from the 3-point line, right?
Yeah, sure.
Close enough?
Yeah, absolutely.
Close enough. But yeah, so he beats like the counter with the Henry Aaron. I believe he calls it the Henry Aaron.
Hammer and Hank, the Henry Aaron. Yes.
Yeah. And they're going to find out that Avery is at the Bennett barn. So it's time to go and take care of that.
But you left out the funniest line in this scene.
Oh, sure I did. How about you set that up?
I'll set it up. And I mean, the guy says you can't drink in here unless you what? Unless you have a badge or unless what?
You just say it.
Well, no, you say it.
No, you say it.
I don't like that word.
All right, I'll say it. The guy says to drink here, you need a badge or a pair of tatas.
Yes.
And Raylan says, all right, Art, show him your tatas.
Classic Raylan. He's such a dick.
It was you know what? When that happened, suddenly any skepticism I had about this scene kind of washed away because no matter the outcome of the scene, it was going to be worth it for that line. It was just a classic Justified moment to have in your Justified finale. Really, in a way, I mean, do you agree with this? I feel like in a way that line embodies a lot of what I love about this show. Just how unexpected and shocking it can be and funny when you least expect it in the middle of what could have otherwise been a really tense moment. I thought that line really summed up a lot of what I've loved about this show.
I mean, it's Elmore Leonard, right? It's crackling dialogue. It's people being funny in the face of having a gun held on them, or it's people having these just kind of funny relationships with each other that where they crack wise, or there's something like that just going on. It's just lively dialogue. It is classic Justified, and I mean, I really like that it's Art breaking ball. It's Raylan breaking balls on Art. Like that's kind of been a great relationship. It's like the dynamic duo. They never really have been really in the field like this. Just kind of the two of them out there cracking heads. There's been a couple times where the two of them have been out there, but this is really just the two of us are going to work together. We can be good cop, bad cop. I'm going to rag on you while this happens. You're going to let me do what I do. I'm going to be smashing the bat around here, and I'm going to be rolling this guy down. I'm going to be bracing the heck out of him, and you're just going to let it go. I don't care if you're the chief deputy marshal in the entire state of Kentucky. Like, this is what I do. Watch me work my magic.
Watch me work my magic, indeed. No, it was great to see the two of them out on the field together. I thought that was really good. So they have the information. They know that they need to go to the Bennett barn, but Art's going to get a phone call. He's got other matters to attend to. Boyd is in the hills throwing dynamite, and he's got to deal with that.
And I mean, even when Art says that, Raylan's just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, even Raylan can't believe it. Raylan can't believe
that
it.
Is like, you talk about the legend of Boyd Crowder. Like, I threw dynamite at the U.S. Marshals. It's right up at the top of the list, right?
Yes.
Like, well, Raylan, I threw dynamite. I had to.
Well, Raylan, why do you think I keep saying the D at the end of your name? It stands for dynamite.
Sometimes you got to throw it. But yeah, I also liked in this scene, Raylan, he's not out of the game. Like, he's had a lot of problems in the last few episodes, but immediately he recognizes the Bennett barn, and he's like, that means Loretta might be involved. Like, this could be a real problem. So he's got his head on a lot of things. Like, he's putting stuff together. Like, this is prime Raylan for sure. And I don't know, what did you think about how the Deus Ex Crowder that took Art right out of the mix? Like, Raylan, all of a sudden, he's all alone again.
He's all alone again. That's that's classic series finale fast forwarding. I feel like you come to expect that and forgive that at this point, as long as everything else is great. But I mean, it absolutely is Deus Ex Crowder. There's no two words about it. That's what it is. It comes at the perfect time so that Raylan can be alone and have to make this hard call without anyone else influencing him. But I think you needed it. I mean, how else are you going to get Art out of that situation? You need to get Raylan on his own.
And Art, I think at this point he knows what Raylan's going to do, and he knows Raylan's a force of nature at the end of the day, and he can't really tell Raylan one way or the other what to do. Raylan's going to do what he's going to do. He can only kind of say, like, do the right thing, like, don't do it, don't screw this up. Well, you're going to do it. Don't do it. Don't do the wrong thing here.
Raylan's going to Raylan.
Raylan's going to Raylan.
Raylan's going to Raylan. Let's go to the Bennett barn where the fit hits the shan.
Is that William H. Macy from Wag the Dog?
I believe that is correct.
Wow, I'm just gonna. I'm. That's a nice pull on your part.
It's been said before on Pusher Recaps.
I know it has. I wanted to let you know. I always knew.
I appreciate it. This is a crazy scene. This is the scene that I think you go into the series finale waiting for. I think with so many elements in play, with Avery Markham, with Boyd, with Raylan, with Ava, I think that this is where you expect it to culminate. And culminate it does in a pretty wild and crazy way. It starts out simple enough, terrifying enough, but simple enough that Zachariah is not where he said he would be. Avery is not thrilled about this. He's kind of on overdrive anger mode. He puts the gun up against Ava's chin and says, have you ever had that steel pushed up against your neck like that, up against your chin? And he wants to know everything that was on the other side of the phone call. And then, oh my God, as Hannah in the chat room says, Boyd Crowder, basically a badass, because here he is. The boogeyman himself just shows up. Boyd the kid just shows up and suddenly he's there. Pretty spectacular trick.
Yeah. For a bona fide stoner, you awful quick.
Yeah.
I was terrified of Avery Markham, by the way. I didn't think
scene.
He was going to kill Ava because I thought, well, she knows where the money is. And if he wants the money, he really can't pull the trigger here. But man, this was Sam Elliott just really. Have we ever seen, I mean, can you think of another Sam Elliott role where he's that off the rails? He's normally a very chill, relaxed. That's what he's kind of projecting. But here he was like legitimately psychotic. Like this is terrifying.
Yeah, no, I agree with Hannah in the chat room. Markham was terrifying holding that gun on Ava. He really was unhinged. Like even at his most dangerous, his most dangerous characters, I feel like Sam Elliott is always he's always got the three C's going on: cool, calm, and collective. And I think when he's here as Avery Markham in these final moments, truly off the rails. He has just lost his mind. He's completely unhinged, not thinking clearly, and it's what gets him killed for sure. But to that point, to the fact that he is so off the map and just really acting so erratically and is obviously so angry and thinks that he can outdraw Boyd Crowder. I really wouldn't have been surprised, especially when he's saying like, you think I'm going to buy that bluff and all of this stuff. I really thought that he was going to just pop Ava right there. I really thought that like it was almost going to be like a money be damned type of thing. Like that's how crazy he was. He was just going to shoot her so that Boyd felt some of the pain he was feeling with Catherine. I really thought that might be how we lose Ava.
Yeah, and I did too, but I thought it might be a little different in that I thought he was so out of it and so wound so tightly that he was just going to accidentally do it, that he was going to slip and pull the trigger. Something was going to startle him. Somebody was going to come into the barn, or he was going to hear something, and it was just going to happen, like a Marvin in Pulp Fiction kind of thing. Yeah. And I thought we were going to be cleaning Ava out of that barn, unfortunately.
Yeah. I shot Ava.
Yeah, no, that's not good. You got to call a fixer. You got to call somebody like Wynn Duffy to come in.
Got to call the wolf.
You gotta call the wolf. You gotta call the Wynn.
Yeah, but it really happens here. Boyd with the cop that he's got as a hostage saying, like, you think I'm bluffing? And then I believe that these are Avery Markham's final words. You think I am hillbilly?
And what does he do? He tries to shoot Boyd through the cop.
Yeah, this is a guy who's seen too many movies.
Yeah, it doesn't always work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
All right.
Yeah,
so there you go.
I think the last stand of Avery Markham proves why he felt he needed a Tiger Hawk, why he felt like he needed a guy like Boone, because a gunslinger this man is not. I don't think that this guy has seen a whole lot of combat. Obviously, we know that he had been in the Vietnam War, but something that's been made very clear earlier in the season is, soldiers and criminals are not the same thing. And that was a long time ago when he was a soldier. He was a soldier once and young. And I think that here Avery Markham is proving this is not his forte. This is not his forte, is to be in a gunfight. He tries to shoot Boyd through the cop. He ends up just getting shot to shit. He gets shot through the eye.
Yeah, one-eyed Willie, one-eyed Avery Markham.
That's a hell of a way to go.
It really is. And look, a couple inches either way, he might have got shot right at the top of the head there and not actually in the eye. So this is a very accurate shot, I guess, in some respects. He shoots him right through the eye. I guess maybe Boyd wasn't taught to shoot for the heart, or maybe it was in the heat of the moment. But man, that is a very graphic way to go out.
That's a Tim Gutterson shot.
Yeah, is there any significance to that? Do you think any symbolism?
So Avery getting shot in the eye,
of him losing an eye specifically as you touch your eye?
I just had an itchy eye for a second there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm trying to think of, is there like a Chekhov's eye with Avery Markham? That's one of the things that has been really delightful when we were going back and rewatching Justified and seeing, what tricks were in the drawer, what had Chekhov placed in the drawer to kill some of these, big season bad guys, from Mags Bennett and the apple pie to Quarles with the gun up his sleeve. That was always something that was really fun to think about. And I'm not sure, nothing is really coming to mind with the eye. If anyone who's watching this now or listening to this in the archives has an idea, hit us up. We'll talk about it in our final Justified podcast. But nothing big comes to mind. To me, it's just like a pretty badass Boyd Crowder move.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a really spooky thing, right? Like to see kind of a one-eyed corpse there. It's just like a really graphic way. On TV, you can't show him literally with his head split wide open. Like you can't show brains everywhere there on the ground. I mean, I suppose you can, but you push the line too far, you're going to have issues. But you could show an eye blown out and show some pretty gory stuff there.
Yeah, this is worth debating very quickly. This is from Hannah in the chat room saying, at least Catherine hit her target when she went out. In fairness to Catherine Hale, she shot the crap out of Mikey in that Winnebago. She was, if not for just Mikey's crazy man strength, Catherine would have killed this guy, no problem. Avery Markham, not as good of a marksman. Who do you have in a fight between Avery and Catherine if it had come to it?
I mean, after what you see here, I feel like Catherine, and I feel like
I don't think it's close.
I feel like Catherine is also probably a little more cold-blooded than Avery. I feel like Avery, I don't know. We talked about this last week where we saw the kind of rattling corpse on the ground of Loretta's boyfriend, and he was just kind of twitching on the ground, and Avery puts him out of his misery. But that's the first real thing we see from Avery violence-wise. He's more of a menace, and he's more of a guy who arranges violence and has other people do it for him. There's that great scene between Boone and he that talk about conscience earlier in the season about, well, and Boone says, either you are too poor to care, or you're rich enough to get somebody else to carry the load for you or whatever. And we've seen Avery Markham have other people do his dirty work. Whereas Catherine Hale, when she's cornered in that moment, she gets her purse and she just blows right through Seabass. And then in the Winnebago, she comes with the express purpose of committing that act.
Yeah.
So I think she's a lot colder blooded than Avery Markham.
Yeah. All right. So this is from Tony in the chat room. Tony is talking about what was the significance of Avery getting shot in the eye, and there absolutely is. This is a great call out from Tony. Tony says the story of taking an eye, maybe two would be a start. From the very first scene with Avery Markham when he's talking to Catherine Hale about what he would do to a traitor, taking an eye would be a start, maybe two. That's when he's talking about all of the brutal measures he would go to punish a traitor. So it ends up being all you needed was just one eye, and that'll put you down.
Yeah, and that's a great pull by Tony, and I knew there had to be some significance to it.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
It's too specific of a death to not tie back into something with Markham, and that's a really good callback.
Yeah, I guess two would be a start, and one would be the end.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so now everybody's dead in the room except for Boyd and Ava. And if Boyd had it his way, he would be the last one standing. What about that? What about the fact that Boyd is going to kill Ava without any regard for the money?
He tries. He pulls the trigger.
If he was not empty, she'd be dead.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of divine interventions. The only thing that really saved Ava, that or maybe some poor shots or just how violent that final scene was. But that is, I think, when you talk about emotions playing into things, I mean, that is Boyd being more emotional than anything else. And fair play. I mean, she drew on him when she had no real reason. And when given the opportunity, he wants to know why. And that's what's coming up right away. That's the one question he wants to ask before he goes in.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though, him talking to Raylan in the woods in the previous episode about how you don't know what's in my heart, when Raylan is saying like, you're just going to go out there and kill Ava. Well, you don't know what's in my heart. Well, now we know. Murder and revenge was in his heart for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Not going to even worry about where the money is, or maybe he has an idea about where the money is. We don't know exactly what happened. I mean, we can talk about that, but I mean, there are very few places it could have been. They couldn't have gone very far from the cabin, and I'm surprised that it's $9 million out there and that big of a loose end that somebody must have got that money, Josh.
Yeah.
I don't think it's still out there for you.
I don't think it's still out there. We'll get there.
We will get there.
But yeah, so oh man, I mean, that was just tough, like to realize that Boyd absolutely would have killed Ava. That was a really bitter pill to swallow. But in comes Raylan with a gun, Boyd with a gun, but empty. And part of me is really itching for Raylan to put Boyd down here because it would be great for my death draft. First and foremost, that's my primary motivation. But also it would be very interesting to see Raylan turn this corner to go full Arlo Givens here. Would have been a pretty fascinating development. But equally fascinating is Boyd saying, I'm not going to draw on you. I don't have bullets in my gun. After Raylan kicks him the loaded one, he says, I'm not going to draw on you. I'm not going to do it. And Raylan saying, yeah, you are. You're going to raise that gun and we're going to end this. But Boyd says, you do what you're meant to do, but someday I'm going to get out of here. And when I do, I'll kill Loretta. I'll come and I'll kill you. So what's it going to be, Raylan? And the camera, goes in on Raylan. And I don't know, what did you think the next shot was going to be? Did you think that it was going to be Raylan killing Boyd, or were you not surprised to see Boyd in handcuffs?
I didn't think that Raylan was going to do it. And I'll be honest with you, and it's unfortunate. The main reason I didn't think that Raylan was going to do it is because I thought, shit, we're only like 25, 30 minutes into the episode here. Like if he kills Boyd here, this is their last scene. Like that's it. And what else is there to wrap about the story? Like Avery Markham's dead. Loretta is gone with Boone. And so we'll have to have one final scene there. But Markham is dead. Boyd's dead. Ava will be in custody at that point. I don't see what really there is. I didn't think they'd have 20 minutes of really the end of the story, of the epilogue. They had some epilogue, but I didn't think it would be 20 minutes. So I thought he wasn't going to kill him for that reason alone. But for every other reason, I thought, man, because if you remember, Raylan comes into this scene with Boyd and he says something to the effect of, draw on me or not, I am going to put you down. Like that's the first thing he says to him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, hey.
Well, he was ready to do it last week, too, when he says, I crossed the line with both eyes open.
Yeah, draw on me or not, I am going to put you down. And it's like, I'm not going to draw on you, so I'm going to make you make the move. I'm going to make you prove this to me, that you really are full on, that you're Arlo's son. I'm going to make you prove this to me. And Raylan just can't do it. And I'm not surprised that Raylan doesn't do it. I'm really not. Are you?
No, I'm not. I think ultimately, this is as close to a happy ending as we can get. This is Raylan choosing not to be his dad, choosing to be somebody else, when he was really dancing on the edge of that for a while this season. And so no, I'm not shocked. I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased that this show was able to find a way to put Boyd Crowder down without putting him down. I thought that it was going to be difficult to do that in a satisfying way. It really did seem like he had to die. He did not have to die, but getting him to the place where he could live was very, very, very much a tall order. And I think the show met the bar and cleared it. And I think that they really earned this moment where Raylan is really struggling with this choice of whether or not he should do this. Should I just kill the guy and be done with it? He's threatening to kill me in a few years. I got a kid. I've got Winona. I've got all these things. And Raylan's the better man. He doesn't do it. It's awesome. It's really
the mercy almost had to come at the hands of Raylan, because by showing mercy, by actually doing his job and doing what he was supposed to and living by that code, Raylan had an arc. Like Raylan actually followed some rules there, where at the beginning of the series, we see him with Tommy Bucks, and we see him with the gun thug in Miami. That's Tommy Bucks. And we see a sort of modern day Star Wars version where someone pulls first and then Raylan as Han Solo pulls back. But that's not the way Star Wars was originally. Back in the day, Han Solo was the only one who shot Greedo, the bounty hunter. There was no pull first. And they've really softened the stance on that. And this is sort of that moment for Raylan. Tommy Bucks pulled on Raylan at the top of that hotel or whatever. There's no question about that.
Sure.
And Raylan,
he was, and I hate to use the B word, but he was bullied. He was bullied.
Raylan put him in a corner. Nobody puts Bucks in a corner, but Raylan put him in a corner, and Raylan put him in a position where he felt like he had to do that. There's no question about it. Raylan walked around that episode saying it was justified, but that's kind of what he had done throughout the course of the series. But then somewhere around the time when he's got everybody there, Theo Tonin, and he's got all Nikki Augustine and all these people coming down from Detroit, and Raylan's Winona is put in jeopardy, and all of that happens. Raylan does cross that line, and he crosses it sort of in a kind of a weird way, and he feels guilty about it, and he does tell Art about it. And then from then on, he kind of spirals downward to the point where he just straight up crosses the line completely, turns his gun and badge in, and he's gone rogue and gone against the wishes of the Marshals completely. And so for him to kind of come back to that and come back to a person who not only is trying to corner Boyd, he's trying to give him the Tommy Bucks treatment. He's throwing a gun at him and saying, pull on me. Like, this has to happen. Boyd knows Raylan too well. Boyd knows Raylan a little better than Tommy Bucks, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and he knows, look, if I'm not pulling, I don't think you're going to pull on me, and he doesn't.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I don't know that back in the day, when he did kill Tommy Bucks back in the first episode, in the very first scene, that was, as Winona calls him out at the end of that episode, you're the angriest person I've ever met. And I mean, Raylan is a really angry guy at that time. I don't know that he would have had it in him not to just blow Tommy Bucks away. But I think that he's come a long enough way throughout his time in Harlan that I think, over this past tour of duty, that I think that he earned his place at the table here in not shooting Boyd. I think it was justified not killing him for sure.
I agree completely. That's the right word.
Yeah. But at least it's not going to be the end of the gunplay for Raylan in this episode.
No, thankfully not.
We needed this. This was huge. We needed
This was
it.
huge.
Raylan is gonna escort Ava. There's gonna be no deal, even though she's saying, "I know where the $9 million is. I can help you out." Raylan says, "You're trying to bribe a federal officer here. I'm sorry, Ava. No outs, no deals. It's over." And she wants to know, why didn't you kill Boyd? You heard him. There's not a cell that can keep him. What's in it for you in letting him live? And he says, maybe nothing. And then we get You'll Never Leave Harlan Alive. It's still with several minutes left in this episode. We're getting the really iconic song that I think a lot of us expected to hear at the very, very, very end of the show instead of right here. What did you think when that was happening? Did it feel ominous to you, like something big was about to happen?
Well, so what I felt like was we had the question from Boyd to Ava in the previous scene where Boyd says to Ava, like, why did you do it? And Ava's like, well, I just put myself in your shoes and I did what I think you would have done. And I think Boyd recognizes that that's maybe there's just a hint of that's true. Like maybe he wouldn't have, probably he wouldn't have, but there's a good possibility that he would have. And more to the point, the fact that he made Ava believe that that's what he might do is really crushing to Boyd, I think, on some level. And so we have kind of closure or a weird kind of loop close there with that. So then in this next scene, we have the same kind of thing. Like, why didn't you kill Boyd? Like, tell me. She asks a question of Raylan, and Raylan does give that answer. What does it prove? And Raylan says, maybe nothing. And if maybe nothing are the last words of this episode, it's not as good of a finale, obviously, as it is because of everything that comes after it. But I think that's at some point, I feel like maybe that was the ending of this episode, and they thought about, okay, now we can put an epilogue in there, or no, we can make Boone drive away with Loretta. I think if you're going through and editing this is a potential ending to the show, and that's why the song comes up. Raylan has made the choice. He left Boyd alive. He made the choice not to take the money. He made the choice to drive Ava back to Lexington. The song comes on. The show's over. But wait, no, it's not. The song has to end, and there's a lot more we want to deal with because this is Justified. This is not another TV show.
Yeah, we've got a boon of stuff left to take care of. Specifically, Boone. We got to finally do this. We got to put Jenny to the test. We got to go Raylan versus Jenny here. And this was fun. I like this. My favorite part is when they both when they both show their guns, and Loretta and Ava both just at the same time in their respective cars, they just get down. That was terrific. That was just great comedy.
Yeah. Did you think that Boone had killed Raylan?
No,
and I didn't think so either. Only
for
because
the same reasons why you did not think Boyd was dead.
Too much time left.
Too much time left. See, I could have bought it if they had killed Boyd with 20 minutes left, but to kill Raylan with 15 minutes left, I don't think so.
Yeah, and the main thing that kept me from believing it was that Boone is trying to shoot Raylan again, and he's thinking about doing it, and Loretta stops him. And I don't know that action has as much meaning if she stops him and Raylan is just dead.
Yeah,
like he stopped him from shooting a corpse. It's kind of like, well, at least she showed some mercy and she didn't want the corpse to be shot. But the fact that she in some ways might be responsible for Raylan actually being alive is a nice poetic payoff to all the times Raylan has extended himself for Loretta and all the gestures that he's made to her throughout the course of this series, that she ultimately does save his life. I don't think he even knows it. Obviously, unless someone told him he doesn't. The fact that she saves his life is pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty great. But no, I mean, in a way, it's like Chekhov's hat. Like, that hat had to get shot. That hat had to die more than Raylan had to die.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And, there's a very funny, odd kind of thing about the hat. That was allegedly the one thing Elmore Leonard did not like about this show, as he did not like the hat that Raylan was wearing. He didn't think it fit the way that he had perceived Raylan. He thought a smaller hat would be more practical. So it's very nice tribute to Elmore Leonard that they managed to kill the hat.
Yeah, I wonder what he would have thought of the hat he ends up in.
It just, you put it on and it fit.
Put it on and it fit. Yeah, but they draw. It turns out they're equally fast. But I guess Raylan has better aim.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you can be fast and inaccurate.
Is it better aim or better luck?
It's a good point. Fast and inaccurate is just fast. Fast and accurate is what you need. So I don't know that being inaccurate does Boone any favors, or I don't know that Raylan was luckier. I don't know what happened, but when it's all said and done,
Headgear.
when it's all said and done, Jenny is no more.
Well, Jenny still exists, but
Jenny
Boone.
still exists, but I don't know that Jenny is Jenny without Boone.
Yeah, Jenny's the gun without a name now.
She really is. And the empty chamber.
You're my girl, Jenny.
Yeah, Jenny.
You're my gun, Jenny.
I'm sorry I got in a fight and ruined your Black Panther party.
Yeah.
No, but the whole empty chamber on Jenny didn't come into play, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, did not come into play. Mercifully, how quickly Boone died, though, right?
Yeah.
For you, mostly. And for you and all the people who were done with Boone.
I actually kind of liked where a couple of the things that happened after I was done with Boone. I was just ready to see him stop monologuing and really start acting and acting on screen. And by that, I mean not acting like a monologue is delivered by an actor, but acting like actually shooting people. He did kill Loretta's aunt, of course, off screen, but I wanted to see him do some things on screen. So is it Derek that is Loretta's boyfriend?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so having actually him kill Derek was a lot better step for me in that regard.
For sure.
I was glad we got this final showdown. It didn't seem to necessarily take place we had the big showdown already, but it needed to happen.
And Raylan is alive. Raylan is well. His head has been grazed, but that's it. And everything's good. And Ava's still in the car, but the car has driven off. Ava is gone. And that was terrific too. It's just Ava making off and Raylan's final. God damn it.
I want to go back and watch. Was she cuffed in the car in any way?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look as well.
We remember her being cuffed in Constable Bob's Gremlin and her pulling her way out. And there are times when Raylan has cuffed people to steering wheels and it's worked really well. And there are other times where he's left them uncuffed and it hasn't worked out so well for Raylan. So I don't remember what he did with Ava there. When I rewatch it, I'm going to pay particular attention to that because, man, if he had her cuffed up, that's some pretty tight work by Ava there.
Yeah, she's great. Ava's awesome. Ava's a badass. All right, final scene in the Marshals office. What did you think? What did you think of this? What did you think of Raylan's goodbyes to Art, to Tim, to Rachel, to Nelson? Did you have a favorite of the four goodbyes that Raylan goes through here?
I really like the stuff with Raylan and Art. That was my favorite. It's sort of the kind of man's goodbye, right? Where it's a lot of quiet and it's a lot of unspoken, way more things unspoken than spoken, but communicated nonetheless. And the whole, I brought you here to get Boyd Crowder, and you got him. Took a while, a lot longer than I would have thought, but I brought you back to Kentucky for that, and you did it. So job well done. I love that that's a bearing of the hatchet ultimately between Art and Raylan. For all the consternation, for all the trials and tribulations that Raylan Givens has caused Art Mullen, at the end of it all, Raylan did what he was tasked to do, and it took a little longer and it was a little more complicated, but thank you, Raylan, you did it. And they had a final toast to bourbon, some Blantons. That was fantastic. I really liked that kind of quiet moment. Of course, it's interrupted by Nelson barging in saying there's a phone call for you. What is this deputy agent from Seattle kind of stuff? Because that was who it was that called in, and then it was referenced again later in the episode. That's got to be an Elmore Leonard call out that we're not really thinking of.
Must be. I really like Nelson saying, "We'll miss you, Raylan," and Raylan's like, "No, you won't."
Yeah, I mean Nelson.
Nelson, how did you weasel your way into this final Marshall scene?
Yeah, what is your name? Like Nelson Yost? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, that was really great. But I also liked Raylan and Tim's final scene with kind of the two of them both trying not to get sentimental, and Tim being insistent, like, "I want my bag back." I thought that was pretty good. And I mean, just not a ton to say about Rachel's final goodbye. The fact that it all came down to nice hat, between the two of them. I think it speaks to, they did good stuff with Rachel. I think this season, the best that they've ever done with Rachel was making her the head of the Marshals. But they couldn't keep her there for whatever reason. I think that once they busted her down and brought Art back up into the seat, I feel like they just didn't have anything to do with Rachel anymore.
Yeah, it's a shame.
She's just one character that I don't think they were ever really able to service.
The fact that Nelson got about as much of a goodbye with Raylan as Rachel did, it was a little bit, I felt underserved. You're right. And I don't know exactly why that is. She was a surrogate Art in a lot of respects. Like Raylan was always disrespecting her. She was always kind of poised to be the top agent in the office. And there was some concern that Art was going to rattle feathers in the pilot. Art says, we get a complaint when we change the coffee machine around here. Like it's going to cause a problem that you're in this office. We're really small. And of course it would have caused the biggest problem with Rachel. And there's that kind of early tension in the series itself. But they obviously grew to trust each other greatly. There were times, even in this final season, where Rachel makes the choice to let Raylan be Raylan. And she even says to Art, like, what would you do? Like, of course, you would let him do exactly what I'm doing. So don't criticize me for this. And you realize that Rachel, at her core, is going to be really good at her job. She's going to be as good at her job as Art is, maybe better in some respects, because she doesn't have some of the experience that he does, and maybe isn't as fixated on certain things. But maybe she's got some of the same hangups vis-a-vis Raylan. So they had an existing relationship they could have played on. The nice hat thing, I don't know. It was just kind of like, I'm one of the guys. I'm just going to kind of break your balls. I'm not going to do what you did with Tim and do that thing where we pretend not to be sentimental, but we're really being sentimental. We're gonna just give each other shit a little bit, and that's it. I'm just going to give you one kind of calm line, and that's it. I think that I understand it's in keeping with the character, but the character wasn't well enough developed for them to have much more than that, I don't think.
What do you think of the hat? Throughout this entire series, Raylan is wearing the white hat. He ends the series wearing the black hat, which is usually reserved for the bad guy. But Raylan does the right thing. Raylan doesn't kill Boyd. Raylan arrests Boyd. He does it by the book. He plays it straight, and yet he walks away wearing the black hat. What does that mean?
I think there's a lot of good in that. First and foremost, Raylan's always been a guy who's wearing the white hat on the outside, but the black hat on the inside. And now I think maybe he's wearing the black hat on the outside, and he realizes that he's going to be a little bit of abrasive. He's going to be Raylan. He's going to be Raylan Givens. He's a Givens on the outside, but on the inside, it doesn't mean he can't be the guy in the white hat. He can't be the good guy, the honest guy, the upstanding guy. And I think that switch is a big deal for sure. And is that Boone's hat, right?
Is it Boone's hat?
I thought it was Boone's hat.
I think you're right.
I thought it was Boone's hat, and I think that there's some fun symbolism to that too. It's almost like a totem if it is Boone's hat. He just found it laying on the ground there, put it on, and it fit. So you may as well. All the discussions that he and Boone had about hats throughout this season, and guys who can't fill out hats, and the hipster hat and all that. Like, I think that that's all in service of Elmore Leonard in some respects, but I do think that this is a totem of his kind of interactions with Boone, if that's Boone's hat.
Oh, that's spectacular. I really hope that's the case. I really like that idea that he just nicked the hat right off of Boone.
Boone's dead body.
Yeah, I'm
shot him at the prize.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a picture of him. I'm looking at a picture of Boone right now from I think it was last episode or 2 episodes ago, wearing the hat. Yeah, 2 episodes ago. I do believe that that's the hat Raylan is going to be wearing in the finale.
And that's the hat he took off of the guy in the diner, right?
No, he took that hat, but he got his own. He didn't like that hat.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So,
it's such a jerk.
This is the Boone hat. So yeah, this is.
We think I'm not 100% sure, but that sounds right and it looks right. So I'd have to go back and look at the tape of the actual finale. But looking at this picture of Boone right now makes it look like I think that.
Let's go to the tape. Oh yeah, no, that's it looks like a Boone hat for sure. I want to believe like the aliens. I want to believe that that's Boone's hat.
Yeah,
and
I'm with you.
I still think the black hat, white hat thing stands. I still think there's symbolism beyond the fact that he took a trophy from his big kill there. But
I love your explanation of it. I'm all in on your explanation. I think that's a really great insight into where Raylan is now. That he is a Givens. He is a Givens, but he's no longer a Givens through and through.
Yep. And he can be the guy with the white hat on the inside, even though to the world he's the guy with the black hat on the outside.
All right.
And he's wearing it with a Marlins t-shirt and a freaking like just like a flannel in this epilogue.
Yeah, 4 years later. What did you think when we got 4 years later? Were you a little nervous?
I wasn't nervous for Raylan. I thought Raylan.
Were you nervous for the quality of the episode? I guess is what I'm asking, because this trick doesn't always work.
No, that's true.
I'm looking at you, Albus Severus.
Listen,
we did not get Albus Severus Givens, at least.
What questions did you have that weren't answered that Graham Yost can go on the Today Show and speak for about 40 minutes about all these things that should have been? No, we're not going to. This is not a Harry Potter cast. They're a very successful Harry Potter podcast. I absolutely suggest that you listen to them. Not that I have listened to all of them, but certain of them are fantastic, and they delve into that, I'm sure.
Rein it in.
I like the epilogue. I think we got a tweet that maybe they felt like this was from AJK, AJ Nick on Twitter. Thought it was a little epilogue heavy. AJ said it could have used a touch more Boyd, but a lot of great stuff. I don't know. Did you feel it was epilogue heavy?
No, I thought it was great. We've got how many hours of Justified ahead of this? For 20 minutes in the future, like 20 minutes, 4 years down the line, I can buy that for $1. I think that's pretty good. And I think that everything we got was pretty essential in terms of closing these characters, really putting the pen down and saying, we know everything. We don't need to know anymore. We know everything there is to know about these people. And I think that the epilogue really accomplished that in a way that isn't frustrating, isn't too heavy-handed. It does leave enough mystery, to still think about what are these people doing? What's Raylan's life like in this Miami Marshals office? What's Boyd's life like in this prison? What's Ava's life like with little Zachariah? It still leaves a little bit of an open-ended thing.
I thought there was, here's what I'll say. I thought there was honestly a chance that something from the past was going to come back to bite.
I was waiting for that. Absolutely.
And the reason I was waiting for it is because they had the David Koechner cameo, David Koechner, Champ Kind, whammy. Who had been at the beginning of season 5 and was kind of a Miami guy who Raylan kind of teamed up with there. His name was in the credits.
I know. Yeah.
And because
that sucks. There's SAG reasons to do that and stuff like that, and just industry reasons that name has to be there. But that was a tip off that he is going to be there. And that probably indicates that we're going to Miami at some point.
I agree. And that was my thinking. And I thought, well, that doesn't mean that it's all going to end rosy for Raylan, that there's not going to be something that pulls him back in. I thought the money kind of still hanging around out there was a big loose end. Ava hanging around out there was a big loose end. And I thought, I was running through my head. I was like, well, who's going to end Raylan? And my brother was actually like, oh my gosh, he's in Miami just walking around. Or some of those Miami guys going to come back to haunt him? And then I'm doing the math in my head. Like, no, I'm pretty sure he made a deal where he was going to be safe in Miami from here on out. So I think he's safe with that. But what's this going to be? So I kind of ran that math in my head a little bit, but then I realized, shit, I'm watching the last 15 minutes of Justified. I need to just sit back and enjoy it. Yeah. So we got another great scene of Raylan eating ice cream. Raylan loves ice cream.
Loves ice cream.
He's always eating ice cream.
Loves ice cream. Not a big fan of dog poop flavored ice cream.
Well, who is, Josh?
Who is? Or fish guts. Fish guts, he actually says sounds delicious.
Yeah, well, but playground, sandbox, not very good.
No, dog poop is where it's at.
Dog poop is, we don't want that.
We don't want that. But yeah, and how about this? You know what? And I got to be honest with you, Antonio. I loved this. I love that Raylan and Winona are no longer together.
Yeah, of course, it didn't work.
It felt very true. What was it? 51-49. I guess we went 49. It was basically one way or the other, and it went the way they didn't want it to go, and it makes sense. But it seems like they are on as good of terms as they've ever been. Little Willa, she's adorable, and Raylan looks like he's a really good dad. Richard seems like a bit of a dink, but at least he's not, he's the bad dink. He's not the bad dink. He's the good dink. He's not like, what's his face? Gary, he doesn't seem shady like Gary. He just seems like a little bit of a doof. But it's fine. Everybody seems good. And, Winona comments on how Raylan is the most stubborn man she's ever known. And he says it beats angry. So what you mentioned before about how that part of Raylan seems to be dead and replaced with the white hat inside. I like that. And I think that you have a lot of backup to that here. It seems like Raylan is at peace.
Yeah. And I mean, I wrote in my notes, this is great. I love this for Raylan. I just love that this is where he ultimately ended up, because Timothy Olyphant, he plays this role of Raylan so well, but I have a feeling that the Timothy Olyphant that exists out there in the world is a very Zen kind of guy. I know him to be a kind of a new agey, kind of thoughtful kind of guy, and to see that him just get to be happy in a role for once is not what you usually get to see out of him. So I was really pleased to see the way this worked, and I was very glad that he was on great terms with the good dink there. I was very glad to see that happen, because this is something that even if Raylan and Winona can't work out, to see him be on good terms with her next guy and to see that be okay with him and him be happy with that. And he walks into the office smiling like he's just happy. And a great line from Winona, by the way, where she basically says, what does she say? I wrote it down. I'm looking at it right now. She says something like you're the most stubborn man I've ever known. And
Yeah.
It's angry. I love that.
Yeah, it's great. And things look good at the office. Champ Kine, he's the new Tim Gutterson. That's a pretty fun duo. I mean, he was one of the highlights of season 5, and he was only in it, I think, for just an episode, just the season 5 premiere, if I'm remembering right. But
I think that's right.
But they were a good duo back then. I'm sure they're a good duo now. And I guess I couldn't figure out how Raylan knew that Ava was out there. He just saw a picture of her in the paper. That's it.
Someone from the Seattle field office was scouring newspapers and saw a picture in a newspaper that looked like Ava and sent it on to Rachel, and Rachel sent it to Raylan.
Wow.
Because on the envelope there where he's looking at the picture, it says R. Brooks or whatever from Kentucky. And so it's got her address there, and she's clearly sent it along to Raylan and said, hey, look, she might be out there. And Raylan goes and tracks it down.
Yeah. Well, he finds her. Some things have changed. As Hannah notes in the chat room, everything in the epilogue was great with the exception of Ava's wig. I have to admit, not on Wigler's Wig Watch this week. I should have been. I should have been looking out for that wig. And in retrospect, I don't have a problem with it. Maybe if I look back, I'll think that it looked a little silly. But in the moment, I thought, Ava looks happy. Ava looks good. She looks healthy. She's got no Diet Coca-Cola, no RC Cola. She's just not. She's got water. She's got water and a rifle and a kid.
Water and a rifle and a kid. And did you know that? Did you feel like the kid thing was coming? I mean, you had to know that was coming, right?
I actually wasn't even thinking about it, to be honest with you.
I just knew she wasn't living there by herself, and I started running the math in my head, and I was like, she's not living in this house with Wynn Duffy, is she? I was like, no. And I was like, well, who's living in this house then? What is she hiding from Raylan besides a gun? Why doesn't she want him to come into the house? And I was like, okay, there's probably a kid there.
Well, so talk me through the money. Talk me through the money situation here. Does she have any?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, there's a possibility that she does. So here, let's run this. So what happens is Raylan...
Run me through the possibilities with the goddamn money.
We get a great kind of Drew Thompson style flashback. And by that, I mean, it was shot in the same way where we saw the reveal of Drew Thompson and we saw kind of Shelby acting as Drew Thompson. It was a kind of sepia toned, a little bit of black and white, but not quite kind of flashbacky style shot. And Raylan's running through the options in his head. And he's like, I just want to know who had the money. And he was like, we had some theories. We thought it might have been Ellen May, but there was a WITSEC representative that was on her and could place her at that time. So it couldn't have been her. She's in witness protection. We know it wasn't her. We thought it might have been Limehouse, but it turned out Limehouse had left Noble's Holler right before this all went down. So we knew it wasn't him. Raylan says, my money's always been on Wynn Duffy. And then we see a scene of Wynn Duffy, and we see the shaggin' wagon. We see the van that he's ordered, which we know he ordered the van. That is absolutely, positively true.
Yeah, so just to quickly interrupt, this from Harry Schaefer. He said that we have to mention this, that the wording on Wynn's van, down on all fours mobile grooming, the experts of doggy style.
The experts of doggy style. I wrote it down. That was insane.
Unbelievable.
Like, that is highly conspicuous. That is certainly not inconspicuous. Yeah. And it is ridiculous. So that's classic Wynn. But Raylan says something like, well, if we knew if anybody could get you out of town and talk his way through that, it would be Wynn Duffy. Yeah. And I like to believe that. I mean, I do like to believe that that's what happened. So if that's what happened, they find the money, they take the money out of town, and Wynn Duffy takes the money with Ava, and he knows where the money is, and that's what his sort of payment for getting her out of town is. There's a very good chance. It's $9 million, right? There's a very good chance that she got $500,000. She got, I don't know, $400,000. Like Wynn's not going to insist on all $9 million, is he?
He's going to give her some runaway money, right? Otherwise, what's the point of this?
Yeah, you would think. So I like to think she gets out with some of that money. She's living in what she calls like essentially a caretaker's house. So that's entirely possible that she's basically in a caretaker's house and that everything she says is on the level, that she's that she's volunteering at church, that she's working at a farm that has a lot of service or people or animals that are helping with therapy, things like that. That's all very possible. And she has been laying real low. She said she hasn't even been working as a hairdresser because she worries they're going to find her out. She doesn't really like to go out in public, and she knew she shouldn't have gone to that pumpkin patch, and the pumpkins were a ripoff. So I don't sense that she's sitting on a big wad of cash here, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Kaylee Ehrmantraut fund for little Zachariah Randolph Crowder out there somewhere.
Interesting. Well, yeah, let's talk about Zachariah. So I was surprised by that. I didn't really see it coming. And, thinking back on it, are there clues of Ava being pregnant?
I think I don't know about clues of her being pregnant. We'll have to analyze that for our feedback show and break that down. If anybody has any thoughts,
if anyone has thoughts on that, let us know about Ava being pregnant. I mean, I feel like it was discussed at certain points throughout this final season podcast, but my memory is mush right now, Antonio. I think understandably.
Yeah, no doubt for many reasons, I'm sure. And I don't know. There was definitely coitus, the physical act of love. There was definitely that between. Is
that what that is?
There was definitely that between. You mean coitus, right? Yeah. There was definitely that between Ava and Boyd. So that happened. I mean, it's not a virgin birth here. Like this is not Jesus Zachariah Randolph. Did you hear Jesus was a Jew, Josh? Did you know that?
I've heard. I've heard the rumor.
By the way, is it just me or is Raylan still a dick? Does he call that kid fat?
What does he say? Oh, well, he does say looks like you feed him well.
Raylan is still a dick.
No. He's just admiring the boy's heft.
Oh, yeah, it looks like you feed him pretty well. Like Raylan's being Raylan there. That kid's not growing up on pumpkins.
Well, what do you think? What do you think about this, though? I mean, Ava makes him promise not to tell Boyd that this kid exists. Has to keep that to himself. And Raylan is not only going to live up to that, but he tells Ava he's not bringing her in. He's going to let her stay. He's going to let her be. Good choice, bad choice. What are your thoughts on this decision to uphold the promise and keep Ava where she is?
I think it's a good choice. I think that this is evolved Raylan. This is like Raylan 8.03 or whatever. Like this is Raylan in a form that we haven't always seen in. He is upset, right? He's upset that she ran on him, while he had a gun on her and everything, that she still ran away on him 3 times, he says. And that's betrayal, but I think he's able to bury the hatchet, and that's not exactly the Raylan Givens that we've always seen. But look, we talked about this a ton over this final season. There's a lot of history between Raylan and Ava, and there is a lot of what if or what might have been, and that Raylan might have had the opportunity to give her a better life. And now he literally has that in his hands. Like, you have the opportunity to ruin her life and to make it worse, or you have the opportunity to let her have the chance to make herself better. The fact that he gives her that chance is, I think, paying back on the opportunities that he did not take in the past to take care of her or to make her life better. And I do think, to some extent, whether or not he owed her anything when she was 16, I think the events of season 6 here and the situations that he's put her in, I think he does feel a little bit like he owes her this year. And so I appreciate that he's paying off that debt. Don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely do. It's a happy ending for Ava when it looked really unlikely that she was going to get one for a lot of this season. Pretty amazing that she ends up where she is, and pretty great that Raylan lets her stay. I'm a big fan of that. But above everything, I'm a huge fan of this final scene.
But before we move on to the final scene, just want to ask you, wig watch. Hannah in the chat room said, with the exceptions of Ava's wig and extensions, everything else was great. Were you on wig watch tonight?
Yeah, no, I said that Ava's wig I wasn't paying that much attention to.
Yeah, but you weren't paying attention to it. But I mean, weren't you like? Isn't that something that you? Didn't it really bug you? That isn't something. It's normally something that really rattles you. I just
it's got to be really, really bad. So obviously, if it didn't hit my radar, then it must not have been that bad. It was not Ephraim Goodweather levels of terrible.
I'm the same way. I was just playing devil's advocate for Hannah.
Yeah. But let's get to this final scene. Yeah, let's break this down. We're tired, Antonio. We got to go to bed. Everybody's got to go to bed. Let's put this show to bed before we bring it back for one last podcast next week. The final confrontation between Raylan Givens and Boyd Crowder. Boyd Crowder back in jail, back in church. He is an evangelist once again, speaking to his flock. Really just being very passionate. he in his own way seems like a more peaceful man as well. You know, the guy who promised Raylan that he would come out of here, he would kill Loretta, he would kill Raylan. You know, even if Raylan doesn't come here and deliver this news about Ava, I don't believe that Boyd is coming out of here looking to do that anymore. I authentically buy Boyd Crowder is more at peace than he's been.
I agree. That doesn't mean he's not susceptible to slipping back into something else.
That guy loves temptation.
But temptation is there are certain things about temptation. Some men walk away from it, and some men walk into it. But yeah, I got to think that he's over it. I think that's probably right. I mean, he seems that way. I have no reason to believe not, except for everything else he's ever done. But since it's the series finale, I'd like to think that he's made some progress.
Yeah.
He's still singing the song of Boyd Crowder. He's telling his own outlaw tales.
Yeah, he's telling people about the Mexico job. Great season 5 shout out. You really want people to remember season 5 as your final note to Justified? Come on.
I think somewhere the writers are like, look, we had epic things in that season. How can you ignore it? How can you like it? Listen to what Boyd's talking about here. There were bodies in this van, and they were driving through Mexico, bribing officials.
Yeah, I feel like there's some season 2 heists that could have been sung about there. You know, I will just quickly lament. You know, this final episode did a great job at including very brief cameos from, you know, the Ellen Mays and Limehouses of the world, and here we are in prison. No Dickie Bennett. We can't squeeze in one final Dickie Bennett. We can't just have like Boyd and Dickie Bennett are on the same page. Like, I feel like that would have been a great statement of how far Boyd has come. But, you know, I think that the other piece of it is it would have distracted from this final moment between Raylan and Boyd. I would have loved to have seen it, but I think that you need to have this final scene really just be about those two guys.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I just don't think there's a way to meaningfully work that in. Maybe you show Boyd being taken to jail and exchanging a look with Dickie Bennett, but not 4 years later.
No, not 4 years later. But we get Raylan here. I guess I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't think he was going to say anything about the kid. First of all, Boyd would just lose it at the fact that this kid's name was Zachariah. He would not like that. He would not be thrilled with the name choice.
No, I agree.
Yeah, but beyond that, I didn't think that Raylan was going to give up Ava here. It just did not seem like it was in the cards at all. But to come up with this cover story that Ava is dead, Caroline Dean was the name of the woman who was found, but the DNA matches and the picture matches and everything. Do you think that this is just something he's cooking up for Boyd, or do you think that this is the story he turned in when he went to look into this thing? Who knows how long after visiting Ava this takes place, but do you think that this is Raylan's official story that he has tried to establish?
Fair question, and I actually don't know the answer to that. If I had to guess, I'd say it's a story that he's just telling Boyd, that he didn't really cook all that up and lie to the marshals. I think he probably just got back and said, no, that wasn't her. You know, that wasn't it. Like, I don't know. Maybe burying her gives her the opportunity to live in peace, like he was saying. And she's like, you're not the only one who keeps me from living in peace. But you got random marshals in Seattle out there just looking for her, like looking through pictures. It's a pretty terrifying life to live on the run. So maybe by burying Ava Crowder like this, if he did cook that up for the marshals, like, that's a good way to really pay back that debt he might have felt like he owed her. But I'd like to think that he did that, but it's probably more likely that it's just a cooked up story for Boyd.
Yeah, Boyd hearing that Ava is dead is it's unbelievable. Unbelievable to see on his face just how emotional he is, and just how quietly he's trying to process it. Like, it's almost like he hadn't allowed himself to think about Ava for so long, because like it didn't feel right to think about her. Like, he didn't deserve to. You know, he had tried to kill her. He pulled the trigger on her. And, you know, in my mind, I'm fan fictioning right now, but I mean, that's the beauty of a series finale. You get to do that. But like, I like to think that probably a big part of the reason why he's able to kind of find religion again and spirituality again is he probably looks at that moment as a miracle, that like the monster that he had become had like kind of divinely just been given no bullets in that moment, and this angel was spared. And here he finds that she is gone. She has died. It seems like she has died relatively peacefully, asleep at the wheel, probably very quick. And he even says, you know, between tears, he's not like outright crying as we've seen him do before. We've seen him in like fits of rage and sorrow. This is just a very kind of quiet processing of the moment where he says, okay, then, maybe it's for the best. She'd been trying to get out, and I just don't think it was possible there. Sometimes I think the only way that you could have gotten out of our town alive was to never be born there. And he very quickly switches the subject to Raylan, like, so how's Florida? It's great. It's a really great final scene between these two.
Yeah, and the "we dug coal together" line, it's so perfect and so earned and yet expected and yet unexpected, and it really, I mean, I knew that that's what they were going to say, but the fact that these characters were able to come together and admit that to each other was earned. But I didn't know that they would get there emotionally in this scene. I thought that they might leave it with Raylan just kind of saying to Boyd, "This is it," and she's dead and gone, and I didn't know that they would reach that emotional level. But when Boyd kind of crosses the line and says, like, why are you here? I just want to ask you one more question. Like, why did you come to tell me? I thought you needed to hear it in person. Really, Raylan? Is that it? Like, that's the only reason? And then Raylan just kind of admits, well, if I allow myself to be sentimental, it's because we dug coal together. And I mean, it's just fantastic. Like, not only is it a callback to the pilot, it's a callback to the fantastically poetic and perfect ending of the short story Fire in the Hole that the pilot was based on, the whole show spun out of. That it's just a really, really great line to end the show on. And I don't know at what point they knew they were going to end the show on that line. But I didn't think this final scene just really, really was delivering on everything that had gone on between Raylan and Boyd in that moment. And I really respect when they go to black and they put a card up and they say, "Thank you to the people of Harlan County who has shared your stories with us," and to the U.S. Marshals as well. I think the "we dug coal together" line, it represents so much that is kind of unspoken about the bonds that are formed in places like Harlan County, and about the way that you kind of build an allegiance with the people that you're in really tough situations with. You draw closer to your family, especially. It's a very clannish kind of family-based area, and for somebody to share that with you when you're down in a mine, I forget exactly how Raylan puts it on the pilot. It's just like when you're down underground that deep with the person, you really get close to them, and you really, when you have to rely on them in those situations, you come to know somebody. And like, for them to share that bond, and that bond to be a bond that withstood all of this. To the point that Raylan's going to really not put Boyd down and then come and give him this closure, fake closure, of course, is very meaningful to me, especially being from Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, it's a perfect way to end the series, and I think it's a perfect way to end this particular podcast. And I think we'll dig coal together very soon again, Antonio, as we kind of dig back through Justified and just look at the series as a whole. Try to catch our breath from this finale, and you and I will get together in a few days and we'll talk about the whole series, and we'll post that podcast next Tuesday. But just as the show thanked Harlan County and the Marshals and Elmore Leonard. Just huge thanks to everybody who's been listening to the Justified podcast that Antonio and I have done. I've said numerous times throughout this process that I think that these, all the goofiness aside that we've had tonight and throughout these podcasts, I really do mean these have been some of the most enjoyable podcasts I've done ever, but on post-show recaps and with you, Antonio. And I think that they've been really, really fun, and it's really helped me enjoy the show more. And I hope that the same goes for you guys who've been listening. Those of you who have been listening, let's keep this going. Let's keep this going one more week. Let's hear from you. You can send us your questions for this upcoming feedback show. postshowrecaps.com/feedback is the best way to do that. We'll get your emails that way. You can be a little long-winded. If you'd like to leave us voicemails, that's an opportunity as well. postshowrecaps.com/voicemail. You can tweet them to Antonio. You can tweet them to me. Antonio is at AC Mazzaro, 2 Z's, 1 R. I'm at Round Howard, like Ron Howard, but rounder. And you can tweet that our way, and let's give them a hashtag, and let's keep it simple. How about hashtag We Dug Podcasts together, Antonio?
I like it.
Let's do that. Guys, it's a long night. It is getting way past my bedtime over here. I don't know about you, Antonio, and I don't know about you guys who've been watching and listening along tonight, but thank you all for sticking it out, and everybody in the archives who's listened this far and who has listened to everything we've done. You guys are all awesome. We'll hear from you very soon, and we will be back in 1 week with a final farewell to Harlan County. Take care, everybody.